it's basically uninformed to kind of just say that BTC is the real Bitcoin in anything other than name, and it's mostly just an accident of history that it sort of worked out that way for them. So they were very lucky in that regard. But the thing was, somebody was saying, "Oh, you're not the real Bitcoin," blah blah, and I sort of said, "Well, look, there's points on both sides. I mean, to be honest, Bitcoin Cash has all of the points. The only point it doesn't have are the brand name and the hash rate. Those are the two things. The price is kind of irrelevant, except in so much as it links to the hash rate. So because BTC has the higher price, it also has the higher hash rate. And so if Bitcoin Cash can have a surge in price and then attract more hash rate and then take over and then get more than 50% of the hash rate, well, BTC will probably die pretty quickly after that. I would expect, because that's the one thing that they have. And definitely, I know people that I've already introduced to Bitcoin Cash and traded with them a little bit and stuff. And then they just say, like, they don't even call it Bitcoin Cash, they just call it Bitcoin, because they're like, this is obviously the real thing, because I'm trading it with you, not like BTC that they've never been involved in or whatever. But I expect that as Bitcoin Cash takes over Bitcoin, we'll end up in a scenario where the denialism from the BTC crowd, like obviously everybody in that camp now is going to have the choice, right? Do they defect, or do they just stick with their beliefs? And that sticking with it is going to be less and less tenable until it gets to a point where they're just irrelevant, right? And so it's going to be kind of a fun, like if we flip the hash rate, then I expect fully that there'll be some other, oh no, but we've got the brand name and you are the scam, or like whatever. But by that point, nobody will freaking care. So, just make them obsolete basically.
Yeah, as far as the Bitcoin Cash is the real Bitcoin thing, I've had people come and argue with me on Reddit. I hang around in the subreddit, and then you get the opportunity to see the arguments of the people from that other Bitcoin and the other subreddit come and take offense or whatever, and they think that we're just talking about the name. Like, we're saying technically we should have that name, and the point is, no, it's the spirit of the project. It's not that we think that we've been tricked out of the name.
Yeah, exactly. Like branding is just brand. Well, I mean, in some senses, it's kind of like a Theseus's ship type argument, right? If you have a ship and you replace, one plank of wood, one plank of wood, at what point is it a new ship, or is it the same ship, right? So I guess it can sort of get into philosophy a little bit there, but definitely, I think loads of the people who don't understand the distinction or why people have that argument, it's because they came in after the fork, and so to them, their sort of reality or their story is like, oh, well, this is Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. Well, they sort of forked off as though we went off to the side, rather than it was kind
Yeah,
of like it was one road that split into two sort of equally, rather than like one that was going straight ahead and one that just kind of, offered a right angle type of idea, right? So I think they often think of it like that, right?
that's one of the weirdest things I've encountered recently, bickering with these people. I only just realized that they believe that we came out of left field and just latched on to the name. Like, they literally don't understand that it was a common origin point. It's the same blockchain, and one project had one interpretation and the other went its other way. And I've actually had some people say, like, oh, I didn't realize that. I really did think that you just sort of came in and co-opted the name. And that's why they repeat this scam coin thing so much of the time.
Yeah, I mean, it's just fascinating because you ultimately, I think it's actually to our benefit, sort of in a way, that because if people have all this misinformation and stuff, obviously that's ideal. It would be better if there was no misinformation. But when they have the misinformation, what happens is they, one way or another, they eventually get to the real truth of the matter. As you can see, when you argue with them, sometimes they just argue and then they just piss off, and then sometimes they argue with you, and then they, eventually, or they look around, or they try using Bitcoin Cash or something, and then suddenly, like the doors open in their mind that they understand, and then once somebody has been through that process, they are more of a stronger convert than you could ever possibly, achieve any other way, right? So that process, I think, is really good, because I mean, anybody who was around before the fork, they sort of had that process by default, at least if they're in Bitcoin Cash now. But for the people who are coming into it, obviously, if you just start in Bitcoin Cash, then maybe at a certain time you look at Bitcoin and then discover, wait, this is shit, and you come back. But if you've been on the Bitcoin side and you're Bitcoin Cash is a scam and blah blah blah, and then you eventually realize not, well, you're going to be a pretty good advocate when somebody else has those same arguments. Bitcoin Cash is a scam, blah blah blah.